announced military tanker drivers will start delivering fuel across the UK, the worst hit spots, we should say, from Monday. Visa restrictions are also being further relaxed to immediately
Thought I'd share this with you all.
300 foreign tanker drivers to work in the UK up until March of next year. Let's talk to the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, who's in central London for us this morning. Before heading up to the conference, no doubt, Health Secretary. Is this situation under control?
No.
I think you're referring to the fuel situation, and it's stabilising. There's
no.
In the country there.
You're sticking a bandage.
In the last few days is trouble in terms of getting that fuel to the petrol forecourts. I think in most parts of the country it is certainly seeing signs of stabilisation, but I think it's also right as a
stabilisation. Yeah, right. Close garages.
I think that starts from Monday. I think that's the right measure to take to make sure people have all the confidence that they need.
As a precaution, I mean, have you tried to get petrol any time over the last week?
Well, I personally haven't tried, but my wife and my members of my family have, and of course, depending on where you live, it hasn't been easy. There have been queues. I've also
queues. Aye, yeah.
And others.
Big queues.
The situation is stabilising in most parts of the country, and the measures that have already been taken in terms of relaxing some of the rules around HGV drivers and relaxing.
DVLA should be sorting out the those who did like the test from 2018.
Because people want the situation to go completely back to normal as soon as possible. It's heading in the right direction, but if the military can help, then we should certainly take up that offer of help.
And this one about the European drivers.
Over the last week is that this is absolutely chaotic. You can drive around and never see a petrol station that's open.
Exactly.
No, I think government ministers of the last few days have accepted the situation as it is, but what they have done
accepted it. Come on.
In every way that we possibly can, and it's also important, I think, for people to know that there's never been an actual shortage of fuel in the country. There is enough fuel for everyone.
Yeah, it's the drivers, mate, to get it to the petrol station.
The scenes on whether it's through media or social media and reacting.
DVLA needs to step up to the plate.
Normal reaction, but I think it's worth reassuring people
a plan.
That there is enough fuel in this
all
country.
The tests from 2018 to now, past them.
If needed to help, they will be ready to do so from Monday.
Yeah, I mean, it's again saying the military's there as a precaution. I mean, you've got soldiers on UKSB given 30 minutes notice to move at the moment to head from their barracks to start on this job. I mean, that's an urgent situation. Any soldier will tell you that.
Well, my understanding is that the military won't be directly involved until Monday, and the reason for that is to give some time for some of the extra training that's going to be required. It also gives time to coordinate with the fuel companies and with others, and I think that makes sense. But I think it's also really important that we can actually call in the military at a time like this for that extra support, to give that confidence and have this as a measure that's there as a precaution, because, as I say, the situation is stabilising. No one's going to pretend it's completely back to normal. I wish it was, but it's getting that way. But I think having the military available in this way is a really sensible thing to think about.
What about these foreign drivers being brought in? I mean, obviously the move to get several thousand in, 5,000 I think it was, I mean, hasn't seemed to have gone down very well with drivers.
Well, it wouldn't. It's only 5,000.
Do you think, to get 300 people temporary visas, emergency visas immediately? Why is that going to make a difference?
It's not.
Of course, we've got everyone knows, and this is about a shortage in HGV drivers in particular. I think there's a shortage.
So DVLA, do something about it.
By the way, in Europe, in mainland Europe, there's a shortage of some 400,000. So this is an international.
Yeah, it's international, by the way.
In the UK.
It's not just here.
It's right that we try to find ways to get more drivers, and if that
forgive me for jumping in, but if it's a continent-wide shortage, why on earth do you think we're going to be able to tempt them over to this country when we've obviously kicked a lot of them out?
Exactly.
Of course, there's competition for drivers, and that's taking place throughout Europe. But it is important that we try to do what we can, and I am confident actually that with the
Oh, you're confident.
changes that have been announced, that we will get more drivers. But that's not the long-term answer to this. We obviously need more drivers trained to do this, and some of the measures that have been taken in terms of how that training is done, how quickly the training process can proceed. I mean, these are all the right measures, but in the short term, I think it is right to try and see.
Yeah, just stick a bandage on it.
And I think that will work.
Why hasn't anything been done on this sooner? I mean, we've known this was coming. There was a shortage of drivers pre-pandemic. Obviously, the pandemic's made things worse. Some argue Brexit has made things worse. And we've had a shortage on supermarket shelves for some considerable time. So
yeah.
Why wasn't action taken prior to this?
Well, there has been action that's been taking place, as I understand it, for months, and indeed for well over a year. But the one thing no government controls is how labour markets move exactly. We all know that this, for example, has been tied up with the pandemic across the world. But if you look at the impact on Europe and the lockdowns that were had, and the different types of support for labour markets from the different governments in Europe, it's had an impact that isn't entirely always predictable. But as this problem has got worse in the last few weeks, and the government has responded in the way it has with some of the measures that we've just talked about, I'm confident that they will make a difference. And you started off again asking about the military, and I think it's right in a situation like this that we can call on the military for this type of support. And as I say, that will be ready from Monday, and I think that will further help to stabilise the situation and give more confidence, and that's the important thing.
Can I ask you about women and girls and their